Hello, everybody. You are tuned right here to the one and only Sexy Asian Dragon. Before I get going on my subject matter, you gotta see this. The dog used to chase this and bark at it and everything. Now the dog's afraid of it. But check this out. This thing is a trip. This thing makes all kinds of weird noises, and I was horsing around helping the couple of the house do something a minute ago, and I pushed it and sent it off in the kitchen. And the man of the house started laughing and says, "Come here, you got to see this." And this thing went underneath something, got stuck under there, and it's making all these noises. I mean, this thing is a trip. And then it backs up, tries to get out, does all that. Anyways, the thing was funny. It makes other noises too, but since I don't have it on the floor, it'll just keep burping and belching over here. Mouse. So, I'm going to warn everybody right now, what I'm going to talk about is not for children. This is for adults. Pacific is going to talk about the anatomy of a lust. I heard a sermon at church today that was quite powerful. And I want to work through that sermon with my viewers, but I want to take you on a journey. Some of these things you've heard in other videos, but I want to go back to my earliest. I remember when I was a child living in Torrance, California. My friend in China just message popped up. He just got his laptop up and running again. He is finding out that the oppression of communism, he said that the atmosphere of where he's at, it's really weighing in on him. We talk about the excitement of going to a foreign country, and as much as he was tired of Cleveland, he's feeling that yuckiness and wants out of there. I said, stick with your contract. Enjoy it for what it is so that when you do leave, you don't have homesickness for China again. So, I'm going to be blunt. This is a no holds barred. How long this video will go, I don't know. So let's just let her roll. We're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about men, lust. We're going to talk about women and their contribution to a problem that is literally off the charts. First, let's say something. Pornography made $20 billion last year. More than all professional sports combined. Pacific is tired of going to churches where men are beat up. And I was very encouraged to see a pastor today not beating up on men, but dealing with both of us. He talked about how women will wear dresses, even women that are married, to catch the attention of the man next door. You know, the man who fixes everything, the man who always compliments his wife, and the woman starts going, "Gosh, my husband doesn't fix anything. He doesn't compliment me." He talked about coworkers. And a man inviting the woman to lunch, and the woman says, "Well, you know, it is business." Can I tell you what Pastor said today that shocked me? He talked about in the Bible where Jesus says, if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. And he says, what does that mean today? He says, it means if you have a job, no matter how comfortable and lucrative it is, if you've got a woman in there that's trying to get you to reduce yourself to a lesser value, to take away your love for God, then you quit that job. And I'm like, really? He says, if you can't stop looking at porn, throw away your computer. If you can't be careful what you're watching on TV, end your cable. Viewers, I'm going to tell you something. Men and women that watch me, you all respect me, and I thank you for that. But can I say something? I have a struggle, and you all know that. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about a lot of things here because it's very hard. What do you do if, as a born-again Christian, you haven't been faithful to God in the arena of sexual morality? What are you going to do if you've been married 3 times? What are you going to do if you've had multiple lovers and even crossed over into same sex? What are you going to do when you've looked at porn? Endless hours of porn. I do a video yesterday talking about women. Thou art enslaved. And then on my Facebook, I'm posting pictures of Colombian, Brazilian, Argentinian, and South American women with bikinis on. We're going to talk about something, and when I get done here, every one of us is going to realize how far short we fall. Every one of us is going to realize that the standard has been so pushed in our face of the way things are today that we've come to accept that as acceptable and normal. And I find myself after this morning's sermon going, what would it really look like for us men if we really exercise what we need to exercise to stop or to arrest the lust that's deep within us? You have to bear with me on the throat today. We got a lot of good things to talk about. I remember when I was a child. Again, I was adopted. I knew nothing about anything. I was just a dopey kid. I was locked in my bedroom. I don't remember the age. 5, 6, 7, 8, I don't know. Come on, boys. Remember when you popped a Woody the first time? Girls, if you don't know what a Woody is, that's when a guy gets a boner, an erection. Remember the first time it happened to me. Do you remember the age? Do you remember the date? No, but I remember being in my room in Torrance. Lights were out, it was dark, and the street light was coming in the window, and looking at myself going, what in the world is going on? And I felt it and touched it, and it felt good, and it was kind of a pleasurable thing to feel hard. Then I remember when I was real little, and I wasn't sexual about this. My sister, now I want to say something. We're going to talk about some cutting, honest confessions here. This is not a channel for Pandora and all my trolls, but they'll all be here enjoying every minute of this stuff. That's okay. I have nothing left to lose, so I figured why not pull out another shocker. My sister was adopted from a different family. When I was real little, I remember this clearly. I didn't know anything. Nothing was explained to me. We were playing in my room, and she had on some short little something, and I asked her to pull her thing down because I was looking at her privates because it looked different than mine. It was not sexual in nature. It was like, what is that? Well, the door opens, and in comes my mom, and And I remember she gives me this book, A Doctor Talks to 5 to 7-year-olds. It was all written in adult language. I couldn't understand it. And all I remember is there was one black and white photo of Michelangelo, with his ding-dong, the sculpture. Now, any of you boys remember when you were a kid and somebody said the word penis, or you saw a picture and you went, I did that. And I remember I went into my sister's room one day and I opened the page to the Michelangelo and I pointed right there and I said, go out in the living room and ask Dad what this is. I knew what it was, but I was just that ornery brother. So sure enough, she takes the bait, walks out. Dad, what is this? I hear Dad in the living room. That book was given to Michael. Go give that back to him. And he comes to me and says, this is not to be shown to your sister. Okay, why? Never got an answer. I remember when I was living in Mammoth and I was running around with the neighborhood boys, and I remember the first time I went over to somebody's house who were down in their garage and there was a stack of Penthouse and Playboys, and the first time I saw a picture of a woman's butt and her boobs, and I was like, that thing down below, and I remember then I was like, ooh, that's ugly. But I remember seeing the breast and I was like, wow, what is this? Then when I hit my teenage years, and all of a sudden I told you the story about being in 6th grade and we went to a graduation party at one of the video arcades to play games, and one of the girls in class brushed her arm up against me, and I remember feeling something for the first time, and it's like, whoa, what was that? And mind you that through all this, I grew up on movies where people were sleeping together, and I remember one time being in a motel in Nevada, and there was a woman taking off her shirt, well endowed, and it showed a side profile. She's reaching around to unsnap her bra, and I remember thinking, wow. Then began my life of lust. And in Mammoth, I remember when my sister hit her puberty, I remember, and we didn't used to respect boundaries or anything. We never thought of it. We just, if I needed to go ask her something, I just opened her door and barged in her room, or she did the same to me while I walked in, and here she was with no shirt on and no bra, and I'm like, whoa, what are those bumps on my sister? I'm not going to get into detail. I did not have sex with my sister, but yes, I remember asking if I could feel them, if I could touch them. I was fascinated with them. And can I tell you something? This did go on for a couple of years. And I remember telling her, if you tell Mom, you better watch out. Because I felt guilt. And I didn't know why I felt guilt. I just thought, and I know why now, because God put it there. And many of my viewers will go, wow, you were a pedophile. Not really. We were both underage. But I remember even my sister would provoke some of that as well. I remember one time I barged in her room, she had music on, and she had a couple strips of fabric and was strip dancing, and I stood there and watched, and she ate it up. When she got older, and one of her own relatives, she came into her room, or in her home, and saw one of the relatives from Texas get down on one of her daughters, and she freaked. And we'll talk a little bit about this because it's necessary. Many of you girls have been through stuff. I want you to hear from Pacific, honest, brutal truth, that yes, you can call it that, but at the time I perved on my sister. Didn't have sex with her. I never even thought about that. I was fascinated with breasts. I was like, wow, they're so beautiful. Nipples, the dark spot, the whole thing. When she saw her cousin on her little daughter, it brought back a flood of memories. And I remember she called me and said, why did you do this to me? Now, when I became a Christian in 1985, one of the first things I did is said, what I did with you was wrong. And I'd stopped doing it like 2 years prior to that. I'd moved on into high school. We moved to Arizona. I didn't even do that anymore. And I said to her, I'm a Christian, and I just want to tell you that what I did by feeling you up and playing with your breasts, it was wrong, and I'm sorry. And she said, it's okay, we were just kids, we didn't know any better. She seemingly forgave me, and I think that she really did. Until years down the road, having her own family, seeing that, brought up all this stuff. Long story short, she called and was very angry, told me about it. I want to know why you did that. And I said, because it felt good. And she exploded. I said, what other answer was I supposed to give you? I remember when I was in Duluth and I was lonely, and I'd go down to a payphone and make a collect call to call my mother. That was in the days when things weren't so blasted expensive, the 80s. And I started to confess to my mother, I feel guilt about something. I know I haven't done this in years, and I've been gone, but I did something to my sister. And my mother laughed nervously. Well, it's normal. Kids play doctor, and that was the end of that discussion. And I'm going to tell you something in all this about the way women work. Because I did start to tell her. I felt her breasts. She'd have her shirt off. And my sister got angry when I told her the truth because it felt good. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I was attracted and I wanted to touch them. But you told me that if I told Mom, you would kill me. And I said, well, I guess I don't recall saying that, but I suppose I did, and I'm sorry. And I did apologize. Yeah, but it's different now that my daughter's had this happen to her. I'm really angry at you. I said, whatever I need to do to help in the healing, I'm willing to do it. And I never had feelings towards her that way ever after I quit doing that. I never thought about that. Because I'm going to get at something about something that parents need to be aware of that have children of their own. A girl, a boy, start factoring in adoption, stepbrothers, stepsisters. Did you know that immorality actually starts going up when you add step kids into it, adopted kids into it? Did you know that even daddy-o, and this is dangerous stuff what I'm talking about, but man, I remember a guy at the laundromat in Spokane, he adopted this hot looking girl from Africa. She was drop dead gorgeous and better looking than his own wife. And I remember he was very close to her. And I'll tell you what, folks, I'm going to say something that's going to thunderate across everything. Don't think that just because you're an adult, don't think just because you adopt a girl to be your daughter that you're not going to end up becoming attracted to her physical body normal. Doing stuff with her, not okay. But we deceive ourselves. My sister contacted my oldest sister, who I have no close affinity towards whatsoever. And then I got the hate mail saying that you're a pervert, there's something wrong with you. I'm like, wow, I was married to my then wife. And even when I was dating her, I told her all the things I had done prior to ever meeting her. And she never held it against me. This is the ex-wife I'm having problems with now. She never held it against me. It's the past. In fact, when I asked her if she'd had sexual relationships with anybody before marriage, she said no. When we were working in Ohio, she came to me in tears one night and said, all these things are going wrong since we've been here. And I thought maybe it's because I wasn't honest with you. Honest about what? Well, I did have premarital sex with the first guy I married. Why didn't you just tell me that? Because I was so disgusted with myself. I said, you're disgusted with yourself? I said, do you know how much fooling around I've done? I told you all that when we dated. She was so against men having affairs. Her ex-husband had affairs. She hated him, was angry. I heard about it for years. But when her own father committed an affair on her own mother, her response to me was, I can see why he did it. I can understand. Really? It's okay for your dad because you had a close relationship with your dad and you didn't have a close relationship. An affair is wrong. When my little sister got a hold of my oldest sister and then told my mother with something I had already confessed to her, the wrath of Khan came out. Letters telling me how disturbed and how messed up. Man, I'm not even in that. I'm not even doing that. That was way back when. Now I'm in my late 30s when all this came out. Mid-30s, I'm sorry. I think a whole year went by before my sister finally called and said, I'm sorry. And I said, wow, you really made a lot of damage here. I said, I've never hit anything. I told Mother years ago what I did, and she just reduced it to, well, everybody plays doctor. She finally got over all that, forgave me, and it's never come up since. I'm not saying what I did was right. And there are many trolls who get on here and go, wow, you really are a mess. Not any more than my trolls or anybody else viewing. But I want to talk about lust. I want to talk about parenting, and I read something that you should never leave a boy and a girl alone. And the reason a lot of this stuff went on is my parents would go to Bishop 40 miles away and go bowling in, 5, 6, 7 hours. Unsupervised, me, hyper, bored, nothing to do. Most of the time I was teasing and harassing my sister. Fun stuff. She'd get in the chair and watch TV. I'd sneak up behind the chair, grab the back of it. She wouldn't even see or feel it. And I go, boom, and drop the back of the chair to the floor. She wouldn't get hurt. I wouldn't hurt her. I'd go on a panty raid in her room, take panties and lay them all up the stairs. And she'd like, oh my gosh. Wow, how come your underwear's all over the house? She got even with me, typical kid stuff. My dad had a stash of Playboys that when he moved in, I was helping moving, and when I got stuff out of the back of the U-Haul, I found these, and I was like, ooh, what are these? Well, they went up in the loft. And because there was a ladder there, and parents were gone for hours, I'd climb up that ladder, open the door, and they were right there inside the doorway. I didn't even have to climb in the loft. I stood on a ladder and looked at this stuff going, hoo-wee, that's nice. Did you know that pornography is the crack cocaine of the internet? Girls and guys, listen. An orgasm feels great. Did you know that there's dopamine released and dumped into the brain every time you have orgasm? And you start becoming a conditioned response to that? Did you know that Pacific, his whole life, has been insecure? And stuff like that. And I felt beat down by my mother. And I learned. I'm going to tell you the anatomy of this. I'm going to tell you again. And some of this I've discussed in other videos. Some of you go, you're repeating yourself. I am. This thing is a trip. I remember climbing the poles. 6th grade, elementary, Mammoth Elementary School. I used to race up the poles and beat all the other kids to the top. There were 2 poles side by side. But when I was climbing it, I started pulling my legs up and down. I was like, whoa, what is that feeling between my legs? And I started moving my legs up and down. Didn't think anything of it. It was a precursor to orgasm. No semen came out yet. That part hadn't developed. But the pubescent days of my life were starting to come into play. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that felt so good. So I started climbing the poles even more. It wasn't until maybe a year or 2 later, I'd be walking home from school. And I'd cut through this area that was undeveloped. It was all forest. A couple of old Forest Service houses that were abandoned. It was woods between the main street of town. And I remember I'd pull my pants down and, yes, masturbate. And I remember the first time that white stuff come out, I'm like, what is that? This went on for a couple of years when I finally told you guys that I called my mother when my mom and dad were separated. My dad wasn't home, and I said, Mom, I'm doing weird things to myself, and I don't understand it. It feels good. And my mother laughed nervously and said, you need to talk to your dad about that, and that was the end of that. A week later, when my dad and I met to go on a backpacking trip, he said, oh, about what you talked to your mother about, you'll be doing that till you're 80 years old. That was my entire conversation about the birds and the bees. There was no moral guidelines set in place. There was nothing. Back to Mammoth, I was sent to a very New Age strange counselor who had a big medallion around her neck, kind of like I do, but a New Agey thingy. Went to her home, sat on the couch, and I started confessing what I had been doing to my sister. I said, yeah, she lays on top of me with her breasts into my chest, and it feels good. With her shirt off and her bra. And that lady looked me in the eye and said, there's nothing wrong with that. So I thought, wow, it's okay, it's normal. So I continued. Then you go to school and the other kids are talking about boners and woodies and sex and hairy underarms on girls and look at the nipple showing. In Mammoth High School, just like any other school across America, it was quite normal for boys and girls to talk about it, and the rumor go around, yeah, she and him had sex, and you're just, me, I'm like, sex? They had sex? I thought only adults do this. No. And trust me, junior high was pure hell in PE. Those gay little gold shorts we had to wear, and the Mammoth uniforms for the PE, God forbid you popped a boner, because those shorts would stand up like a pitched tent. And everybody there would see, look, he's got a woody, Girls that were just starting to develop and weren't told about bras, nipples poking through, and they're stretching like this, and we're just going, look at Anna. Wow. I'm going to confess to my viewers that many of you said I should go into ministry, and I want to say some. One of the reasons I stepped down after 3 months of preaching in Spokane was because I couldn't believe how strong and on fire for God I could be in a Sunday message and really put my heart into it and go home that very day and lust after an image online. It is my belief that I would not be ready for ministry unless I had total and full and complete control of the lust problem. And I confess to my viewers that I used to try to fight pretty good. The first time we got the internet and I realized there was so much porn accessible, I remember going to my wife saying, I don't think we should have internet. So we didn't. But then when things were bad in the marriage, and they were bad, and then we moved to Virginia, Minnesota, and we had the internet down in the basement, and she wanted the internet, and at night when she'd go to sleep, I would look at it. And I might tell my viewers, what was I looking for? Was it just pretty women? I'll tell you part of it. Imagine being a hyper energetic guy like me and growing up in a home with a mother who was domineering, who literally pushed her husband around, pushed him away when he tried to hug her, feeling like I can never measure up, and then knowing that my dad has a stash of Playboys, which even my mother didn't seem to make him throw away, which I thought was interesting. And let me tell you from an era that I grew up in, my aunt in California, the Kool-Aid mom. I used to love my aunt. Swimming pool in the backyard, take us to San Clemente, take us to the beach, take us on camping trips. We did it all. But I remember a movie on called Butterfly. A miner and his drop-dead, gorgeous, blonde, busty daughter, and he was having sex with her, and the whole town knew about it. They just didn't go for incest. I remember right on the edge of being a teenager. My aunt told both my cousin and I what the movie was about and said it was a good movie. Let me tell you about Southern California Christianity. It's a joke. It's truly cultural Christianity. She sung in the choir at the United Methodist Church, made sure everybody knew about that. And I admit, my aunt had long, beautiful, sandy blonde hair. Now remember, what I'm about to tell you may go, my gosh, you're sick, Pacific. I was adopted. So I did have an eye on some of my cousins and aunts because they weren't blood. They were cute. I had two cousins that were very hot looking. I had two aunts that were hot looking. One was my cousin's mother. And I remember lusting after her. She was well curvy. She looked like something off a Hollywood stage set. And we'd go inner tubing down the Owens River. And I couldn't wait to see my auntie. And it's like her in her bathing suit. And I was just like, this is going to be a fun inner tube trip. And I was very vocal to my cousin. I said, my gosh. I said, I know she's my aunt, but your mother is smoking hot. I'm pausing on purpose. Let that just settle down in. One day when my two cousins, and my uncle were on Catalina Island for Boy Scout trip. Now, back to my aunt in SoCal, Southern California. She had long, sandy blonde hair, and then at some point in the 70s, she chopped it off and got it dyke cut short. I'm like, whoa, what happened to you? I loved her long, beautiful hair. She never went back to the long again. She could be strict. She would belt us, paddle us when we got out of line. And as a kid, I did respect her. Until I became a Christian and saw the struggle I had and the damage that had been done and the stuff that was put into place from my early childhood, things that I had done, things that others had done, that had all been part of the stew that is manifested part and parcel of what it is today. I remember my aunt overheard me talking to my cousin about skinny dipping, and yeah, we skinny dip. Well, I remember my aunt in the jacuzzi one night, had the lights on in the jacuzzi, and my aunt then, I thought she was hot. Small-breasted, hot curves, good-looking lady. Would you like to skinny dip? And I'm preteen, and I'm going, oh my gosh, yeah. She turned off the light, so I didn't end up seeing anything, but we went swimming in the pool and all that. Didn't touch her. There was no one appropriate there. But just the knowing that my aunt was buck naked, man, I had more toilet bowl sit and spin fun over that thought. I'm going to warn you again, this video is not for the faint of heart. So if you feel you need to check out, I'll leave the light on for you and you can go. This is honesty, folks. Guys joking in PE constantly about jacking off, masturbating, spooge. That was the term they used. Oh, he just spooged all over himself. You know, all the dumb stuff. Then go to sex ed in Mammoth Lakes, and our teacher, Mrs. Smith, who was well endowed and not too half bad on the eyes, but a little too domesticated for my liking. But she's teaching class about erections and boners, and I remember one kid named Mark suddenly says, do you notice Mrs. Smith's nipples are hard and they're poking out? She must be getting excited about this. I mean, this is what I was in. And then the school counselor, who was a real bozo, was teaching us how to put a condom on over a toilet tube. You know, the empty roll of toilet paper, the tube. And us guys are sitting there going, do we really need an instruction into this? I'm going to tell you something. Sex ed should not be left up to the public schools. It shouldn't even be allowed. But the school system and our government has tried to become the surrogate family, the brainwashing educator, to remold and to reshape everything that this book stands for and rip the heart and soul out of it. Feminism is so anti-God, so anti-lady, and so anti-male, and it is not logical common sense. And we're going to talk about many other factors that enter into lust. One of those that is grossly underrated in American culture is, of all the nations in the world that would be lined up, America probably is the biggest problem with porn viewing. And America is the number one producer of porn in the world. And why is that? I meet more women in America that don't like to be touched. I meet more parents that grew up with kids where the only kind of interaction is yelling, screaming, pushing away, discipline, strictness, but no hugs, kisses, appropriate touch. And no wonder teenage girls and teenage boys get out there and experience the first time another woman or another guy bumps up against them and they suddenly feel something. Parents, if you don't show appropriate love and affection towards your children, you are setting themselves up to be a nymphomaniacal pig. I am a class case example. growing up with teachers in Mammoth that were a little too free and easy about the discussions they had. Teachers that would come into class with unbuttoned shirts, or the buttons unbuttoned down here where you could see right in the side glance through her bra and see the boob and the nipple. When I became a Christian, one of the first things that hit me after my conversion to Christianity was, wow, Hollywood is really garbage. It's really promoting sexual immorality. But at the same time, in the same Baptist church I was saved in, Prescott Heights Baptist, I noticed all of the youth group and all the adults watch the same movies as the world does. On Golden Pond, what were the movies of the day? All the movies of the 80s and all the preventing. And I've noticed the same thing going on today. Let me get something. Allow me a commercial break. Quick, go to the toilet, get your snacks, get your buttered popcorn. Pacific is taking a theatrical break. Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale about a pathetic trip on board Pacific's tiny sinking ship. Here's a picture of a woman. Her name is Heather Kopp. How a Christian drunk got past her pride. Let me read to you something real quick. This is not why I got this. It was November 2006 when my husband Dave and I moved from Oregon to Colorado. Well, that was the first mistake. That winter, as one blizzard after another buried our town in snow, my alcoholism took me to new lows. I fell down a lot. I embarrassed myself in restaurants, and I drank to black out almost every night. Often I jotted notes while drinking so that in the morning they could help me pretend to Dave that I remembered some of what I'd done or said the previous evening. But my plan didn't always work. I would wake up in the guest room with no idea how I got there. Obviously, my husband and I must have had another dumb drunk Heather fight, as Dave had come to call them. I would stumble into the bathroom and look in the mirror at my puffy face, swollen eyes, and smashed hair, and my heart would fill with hate. Until the end, I held on to the hope that I could hate myself into changing. In the meantime, this boggles me now, I continued to write and edit Christian books. By day, I wrote about topics like parenting and prayer. By night, I drank myself blotto from a secret stash in my closet. You know, it's easy for us to say, well, that person can't possibly be a Christian regarding my ex-wife. Yes, they can be. Here's a woman in living color who's telling her story. I started reading it. I'm not into alcoholism, but I think that wrapped up in her struggle with alcohol, we can start to learn some things about the struggle with an orgasm. I want you to see, though, what kind of a Christian world we're in. A woman's writing Christian books on parenting and prayer, but out of control drunk. Pacific talks about moral issues and posts bikini-clad women on his Facebook called Women of the Day. Pacific looks at topless women. Pacific does look at girl on girl, removing each other's bra, kissing, Frenching. And yet I can deliver you finest fiery stuff, which I believe. And yet I have this dark side of me that struggles profusely and always has. I've read Neil T. Anderson's Bondage Breaker. I've read Steve Arterburn's Every Man's Battle. I have read book after book after book, and I come to the same thing all the time. How do you break this? We're going to get somewhere. But let's go back to the movies. This is an article, and I got to be honest with you, it just blows me away that this is in a Christian magazine. It's called Know Your Place by Jim Daly, D-A-L-Y. We've lost sight of the fact God designed us to live together, but the good news is we can get our communities back, one family, one fellowship, and one neighborhood at a time. He has sections called Community at Church, Community and Community. What if we made the effort to actually talk to people around us? Do we know their names and their stories or even want to? I can answer that. They're complaining about the same things I'm complaining about. There's no community. We don't care about each other anymore. But then you turn the page and you come to this article right here. So you can see that I'm not making it up. This is In Touch magazine, July 2014, a publication of In Touch Ministries, Mr. $200,000 a year, Charles Stanley. There's some good articles in here, so I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. They get them because they tithe the ministry. That's their church. With summer blockbusters showing up in theaters, we asked film critic Jeffrey Overstreet for tips on how to have a better experience at the cinema. He delivered the following opening address for the first 2014 meeting of Sight Club, a fictional church basement movie club in Seattle. You are welcome to start your own Sight Club and use these recommendations as a guide. Okay, and it gives a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 different things to do. But number 3 says this. Love yourself. That is, pay attention to your conscience. There's an interesting mix of things, but let's read it. To love ourselves, we should love the voice of God within ourselves. That sounds new age, H-E double hockey sticks. The closer we come to Christ, the more clearly we'll hear the voice of conscience. It's the voice that asks you, is this experience really nourishing you, or is it a waste of time? Don't rush to judgment, but seriously, is this blessing you, or is it inclining you toward unhealthy appetites? Section 4, love the filmmaker. Artists are often our most inquisitive neighbors. They're asking questions. They're bearing witness. We should give them our attention with respect, humility, and patience, especially if we hope they'll respond to us with the same. And besides, whether we're paying attention to Alfred Hitchcock, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, or Sofia Coppola, we might learn something. I've often heard Christians speaking of filmmakers as threats, as agents seeking to indoctrinate or corrupt an audience. There are villains in any profession, to be sure, but at times my own faith has grown more during encounters with secular art than art made by Christians. Why is that, I wonder? Now, there's a lot here, and that could be worth its own video, but here's the problem that Pacific has. In the 80s, when I got saved, I found myself saying, we need to make a complete exodus out of Hollywood. Not buy into any of it. But we don't. Take a look at Mel Gibson, The Passion. The Nativity. Plethora of so-called Christian-based movies. But when you have Christian watchdog groups like the Berean Call, which, by the way, I support the Berean Call 100%. I have not subscribed to their newsletters because I moved around so much, and when I moved to Hong Kong, they're not going to send them to me in Hong Kong. I need to subscribe. That was something I did religiously every month. It kept me informed of the newest trends and false theologies pervading the evangelical community in America. And they took issue with The Passion, and they called it showtime for the sheep. Christians argued, it's good for us to see how Christ suffered. It was Catholic to the core. Not to mention, there's been such a change in the way people view anything anymore that now there was a time in this country where violence was not acceptable on the screen. Now Christians condone it. Christians watch The Matrix. Christians watch Basketball Diaries. Christians watch a plethora of violent films. Christians watch love stories complete with steaming nude romances between two actors that aren't even legally married to each other on the stage, but are married to others and having sex, adulterous sex on the screen. And they are not acting that. They are doing it. We say in the Bible there must not even be a hint of sexual immorality, and yet we'll watch that. How is it that we as Christians pull that off? The Pacific, you're guilty. I'm admitting that. I'm admitting to looking, forget the movie. I don't want to see the movie. The movies are dumb. If you're going to sin, why not just look at the real deal? Does Pacific support lesbianism? Nope. In my flesh, I do. The philosophies of lesbian, the independence, I don't need the man, that whole thing, no. But seeing two women French kiss, remove each other's bras, and lick each other's breasts and nipples and fondle, it is unbelievable how intimate they are. Sadly, most men aren't even as good lovers to their women as women are to other women. I find that interesting. Should men consult lesbian videos to find out how to better love their wives? No. This world is so jacked up that it's infiltrated the church to such levels and such depths that most of us are so oblivious to how deeply the Trojan horse of secular thinking is just rolled right into the courtyard of the church. We're all standing around going, hey, that's a pretty cool horse, man. I like the blings on him, man. Yeah, I like that trapdoor opening up with all them people coming out, man. Yeah, those people are stealing the heart and soul of Christianity. Love other moviegoers, film critics included. I want to ask my viewers something. Do you think it is the will of God for somebody to call themselves a Christian full-time movie critic who goes and spends money tithing to Hollywood, watching R movies, PG movies, and all this to review them? What benefit is that, as far as Scripture goes, what benefit is that to us? Let me give you a verse that talks about where we're at with that. And it's going to shock all of us. If I can find it. 2 Timothy 3, here we go again. But realize this, in the last days, difficult times will come. For men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, malicious gossips, without self-control, brutal, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding to a form of godliness. Ouch. Although they have denied its power, and it says avoid such men as these. I don't believe it's God's will for a man to appoint himself as a movie critic, to watch movies and give ratings. Why are we trying to deceive ourselves into thinking that Hollywood might actually come out with something that's wholesome and biblically based? When are we going to learn to come out from them, my people, that we share not in their sins? It's because we're addicted to pleasure. I'm going to tell you why else Hollywood is so successful with us men. Because they always put in a busty, hot-looking woman that's in compromising positions, and don't kid yourself. I don't care how godly you are and how committed you are, you're noticing her boobs. Does anybody remember the movie 10? I never saw it. But even to this day, I remember that image of Bo Derek because I saw some of the scene clips from it. Bo Derek is hot. And when she's standing there with no shirt on, do you know that those images are burned on our mind and we don't forget them? Is it any wonder when your wife starts to age and things start sagging and bagging and you got that image of Bo Derek and you go, sheesh, man, I got ripped off. Bo Derek's hot. My wife is not. We have set ourselves up for marital disaster, relational disaster, and that's why guys go from one bed after another bed seeking for the Ponce de Leon fountain of youth in a woman. The other way I used to try to deal with my lust was to find physical flaws in the woman that were a turnoff. And that usually worked with some. Until I went to Asia and found out, shoot, some of these women don't have physical flaws. Then what do you do? I will tell you that, and I'm probably going to step on some toes here, but like I was telling Maharani, everybody thinks Cindy Crawford's a babe. I don't. She's thick. She's chunky. She's not your typical thing, and some guys think she's a hottie. Cindy Crawford got offended years ago when an 8-year-old or 10-year-old boy made some comment that he'd like to F her. Her response, something like, that's so inappropriate, how awful. Well, hey, Cindy, look at the way you're portraying yourself. Big boobs, scantily clad, immoral, godless. Women are funny creatures. They think that they can dress any way they want. And Pacific has played right into it. Should a woman wear a bikini in a public place outside of the bounds of her own husband and the privacy of their own home? I want to ask women a question. Right now on my screen, I got a picture of a Colombian woman who is smoking. She's in a bikini. The ocean's behind her, the mountains. And can I tell you something? If I really were to submit to God on this, I would have to get all those pictures out of there. And I did get rid of the topless ones. I did that a week ago and said, don't. But now I have bikini-clad women or women like this because I love that. That's normal boy, right? World War II, they painted women like this on the front of their Hellcat fighters, you know, and their airplanes. We've come to accept this as normal. At least he's not gay. He's checking out a hot woman. Okay, I'm good with that. What do you do? The Bible says that women should dress modestly. What do you do when you go to the frickin' beach? Oh. Do you see what's happened? Our culture shifts. Then we start saying, well, you don't want to be legalistic about it. Let's talk about legalism, because there's a wrong definition out there. Legalism is adding works to the grace of Christ. Judaizers said, hey, okay, you become a Christian, that's good, but you got to be circumcised. And Paul says, no, you don't. Yes, you do. No, you don't. Yes, you do. No, you don't. Back and forth. Paul says you're supposed to have a circumcision of the heart. We're not under law, we're under grace. What does that mean for us today? What does that look like? If I follow the pastor's rule on that, so because I'm attracted to women I work with, should I quit my job? And I started thinking, really, ultimately, if we really wanted to follow God, it says, I do not permit a woman to teach or have authority over men. We should quit our jobs where women are our bosses and go work for men only. Go work in a lumberyard. Can I tell you, I'm becoming more comfortable with the idea of going to a man's place and saying, you know what, I want a job with men. I don't want to be with a bunch of women that are flirting and teasing and playing games. The stuff I see go on in our break room is ridiculous. Married women that cheat and flirt and lead on other men. Girls, a Christian woman, black Spanish mix, always coming up high and talking to all us single guys, but I love my boyfriend. Bull crap. And even I've gotten caught up in it. Boy, if you've got an overly jealous boyfriend, you better watch out. He might hit you. Actually, women have been using that against men too. Let's talk about jealousy. If somebody is your little doe, if somebody's become your love, you'd better be a little bit jealous for her. You better not be comfortable with her carousing around or hanging out and chit-chatting with other men. Pacific has a strong belief, and I haven't followed it in the last few years because the culture's changed so much. Today, an Asian woman at church hugged me. She's Japanese, much older than me. Look, I'm a sucker for attention because I don't get it anymore. She's still pretty, and it's like, oh, she's Asian. She didn't give me a hug with a breast pressed into me. It was an appropriate hug. But I want to ask my viewers a question. I want to ask you men, and I want answers in the comments. Should women wear bikinis? Should women be dressing in swimsuits? And then you get into, should it be a two-piece? Should it be a one-piece? Tell me that when you go to the beach, you're not going to lust. Tell me you're not going to notice her breasts. You sure will. How are we supposed to live? The Bible says a woman's supposed to be modest. Well, she's supposed to wear a Victorian dress into the ocean? Or should we ask a deeper question? Should the women even be on the beach swimming at all? Wear your normal clothes and go for a walk. Oh, so you're saying women shouldn't swim? I'm saying that if we were to follow things to the letter, where does it end? You cannot go to the beach and keep your mind pure, people. I grew up in Southern California, and that was the first thing we were doing was looking at all the beautiful breasts out there. That is the place for eye candy. People have condemned me saying, oh, you think you can sin. I didn't say I think I can sin. I said I do sin. That's the atheist comeback. But atheists are going to have a lot more problems on their hands because they think there is no such thing as sin except what they accuse us Christians of. And they think because they don't believe in God, they get a free pass. They're going to be in rude awakening. Number one, the fool said in his heart there is no God. They're going to find out there is a God, and God's going to say, oh yeah, you're blasting my children for sinning, but all you did was sin. And you think that that's okay because you don't believe in God. Well, isn't that convenient? And then you hammer away at the Christians and say, hypocrite, hypocrite, hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. There is sins. There is a standard, and you didn't follow all of them at all. Atheists will be shot down by their own foolishness right in the eyes of God. They're sinners without a Savior. They're hypocrites in that they deny God, but yet put standards on us, but yet turn around and say there's no absolutes until it comes to something that directly affects them. You can't rape my wife. You can't steal my car. Yes, I can. No, you can't. Survival of the fittest, fool. I can shred an atheist's so-called logic just on that alone. I don't need one verse of Bible. If it's truly survival of the fittest, then your standard is not the highest of the land. I don't care how many laws are passed. If I have enough tanks, enough money, enough guns, I can take over America, and I can shut down everything and say we're done with the Constitution, and we're going to run things my way because I'm might is right. Atheists don't want to admit that. Atheists want to live their middle-class American comfy lifestyle, and they don't want anybody impinging on them. And if they want to be gay, and if they want to do this, and they want to do that, then no absolutes, there's no God, don't talk about morality. Sorry. You're hypocrites of the highest order. And the atheists like to look at me and say, look at all the sins in his life. He calls himself a Christian. I am a Christian. I don't call myself that. I've been termed that by God because I did business with God. It doesn't mean I can party. God will hold me accountable as a Christian for those things I did upon conversion in Christ. It says that in 1 Corinthians, that my works will be burned up and shown for what they are. If I build wood, hay, and stubble on the foundation of Jesus Christ in my Christian life, they'll be burned up, and I suffer loss. If I build precious gems and gold and costly stones, that'll survive, and I'll get rewards. Doesn't mean I'm going to lose my salvation, because the Bible even says, he himself shall be saved, though scarcely, but as by fire. Christians struggle with sin. Here's a woman writing Christian publications and books, and she's a raving alcoholic, a lush. I have an ex-wife who doesn't ever take ownership for the things she's done, even in front of the counselor the other day. I did not hear her say, I'm sorry, son. Her reaction was, well, you pissed me off, and I'm sick of this SHIT and blah, blah. Yep, an excuse. It's okay to admit you're angry, but can you say you're right? I shouldn't have done that. I'm human and I got upset, but you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much hurt that caused. She will not do that. To me, when I look at the pages of Holy Writ, the scripture is very clear. If any man says he does not sin, he makes God out to be a liar, and God's word has no place in his life. How can a Christian woman walk around thinking she hasn't done anything wrong? How can ex-wife Beth do that? How can ex-wife 14 years do that? I do not know. But people could ask me, you became a Christian and you say that God is everything to you, but you still masturbate over pornographic images and you've committed all kinds of sexual immorality. Yep, I have. Does that mean Jesus isn't powerful? No. How about this one? Let's go back to the drunk saint. Where do you turn for hope when you already have the answer, but the answer isn't working? And she admits, I had Jesus. I'm born again. And yet I've got this problem. What do you do when you're Pacific Ocean, Asia, or any of you other men watching my channel, or you women? Women aren't exempt from this. I want to take a time indent out right now to thank some of the women that are on my channel. Some of you are trying to live godly lives. Some of you are very honest. I got a tattoo and I'm ashamed of it. I did this. I appreciate that. I'm not here to hammer on you. I'm guilty as HE double hockey sticks of those women that are nice to me. I accept them more than the ones that aren't. Can I be honest? Women that hate me, I hate them. Women that are nasty to me, I don't like them. Women that don't accept me and reject me, I'll criticize them till I'm blue in the face. How's that for living out biblical Christianity? Love your enemies. Do good to those who persecute you, use you, falsely accuse. Yeah, I'm real good at that department. Not! I can overlook the sins of the women on my channel and the women in my life who have accepted me. That's something women need to know. I'm not looking for perfection. I could fall in love with a woman who's far from perfect. If she loves me, accepts me, and has things that I love and accept about her, shoot, I can overlook some things. Should I? Well, it depends on what they're doing. The Bible says to spur one another on to good deeds. Sometimes we're not good at that. Sometimes we have relationships in our life where we spur one another on to sin. What do you do when you're so comfortable with somebody? How about this day and age? And there's not just me, but there's a whole bunch of my viewers out here that don't have any friends in the town or place they live in. There's women on here that are married to their husband that don't have friends or people to really hang out with, and they're with their husband and the marriage is kind of or the husband's not a believer, not real committed. How about a woman that gets on my channel and may not be sexually attracted to me, but hears me speak and hears the authority I speak with and goes, gosh, I wish my husband were like that. Do you think it's normal for that woman to start getting feelings towards me? Of course it is. Because it's the old saying, the grass is greener over there. It isn't. I got weeds in my yard too, folks. Dandelions, thistle. I hate thistle. Ragweed. And that other stuff, broadleaf, that stuff that grows in the crack of the sidewalk and it goes about a foot in all directions and it's flat and you go and grab it and it goes and breaks right at the edge of the cement, and a week later the thing grows back because you didn't get the root. How about the weeds that I got out of the Korean lady's yard when I landscaped her yard? Her grass had gone to seed and I had to dig out the whole lawn. I dug down 6 inches and there were weeds in there with a taproot that were well over a foot and that big around. If you grab the top, the thing went pop right at the top, and you got a root the size of a mega carrot on steroids going straight down with all these branches off it. I hate weeds. Weeds is such a symbol of sin in our life. Weeds is such a symbol of the curse of God because we sinned in the garden. How stupid we were. I look at people in their SUVs and their Range Rover and all their little things, and I go, are you serious? And they're puffed up. They got to hire a guy to spray the weeds in their lawn. They got to hire people to fix their house because they can't do it. I'm thinking, you know what? God saw all that he had made, saw that it was good. Adam and Eve, naked, not ashamed, beautiful woman, beautiful man. They had fruit. We pay for organic. We got a place called Vitamin Cottage, Sprouts, Whole Foods Co-op. And I'm sorry, but a lot of the people that frequent those stores, a little weird, new agey, save the planet, Subarus with their golden retriever and their Eddie Bauer LL Bean edition. You know, I'm saving the planet by not investing in a razor to shave my armpits and I'm a woman. Okay, yeah. And yet good eating is a good thing. But we had purely organic, no pesticides, no genetically altered, no Monsanto's food back in the garden. We had no traffic jams. We had no pornography. We had no sin yet. And people will stand in New York City or like I did in Hong Kong and see the skyscrapers and all the lights and go, Wow. All of that needs constant maintenance. Light bulbs replaced, electrical lines replaced, windows washed, buildings that have to come down after so many years because they're too old and they're compromising and need to be raised. We traded the Garden of Eden for this. And we can tell ourselves to her blue in her face, don't look at that woman, don't look at you. How are you supposed to do that? You go to work, you're surrounded by women. You go to church, you're surrounded by women. You go anywhere out there, you're surrounded by women. How does a man keep himself pure? It says by living according to your word, but we're surrounded by impurity at all levels. Let's enter some other factors. Big factors. Let's talk about what feminism has done to men and women. Feminism is not just something because it's just destroyed women, but it's destroying men because beautiful women now are so picky and so ridiculous and saying, we don't need a man, but I do want a man because I want a man as a play toy. And now we men have to meet their plethora of ridiculous, unattainable requirements, starting with financial security. Women want equality, but they're hypocrites in that one. They don't want equality. They want the man to earn the money while they can sit around and smart off on their butt all day and get on Facebook and text and be vain and stupid and not even cook you a home-cooked meal anymore like the old-fashioned women did back in the 50s and beyond. But we men can rationalize our sin. Do you know what rationalize means? This I'm quoting from Pastor. Ration out lies. Men, we need to tell ourselves something, and I'm sorry if I'm stepping on toes, ladies, but it needs to be said. These hot-looking, beautiful women are frickin' dingbats up here. It's easy to sport a pair of boobs around and go like this. Women act like they're so stressed, putting on their makeup and doing another photo shoot and advertising for porn, and they call that a job. That is not a job. That is a sin. The Hollywood actresses, I'm sorry. People pay, they want to see the Oscars and the Emmys for good acting. And I laugh. I told Maharani, go to corporate America today. You'll see some of the finest actors and actresses you've ever seen in America. You know, the ones that get up, how are you doing today? I'm doing well. Watch when they get in their car in the parking garage and get out onto the freeway. What you see in the office and what you see in that car, yeah, they're acting. Not in the car, but in the building. How do I know this? Because a dumb-ass school bus driver sees it out his windshield every day. Suits and ties. Cutting me off. Speeding. Speed limits don't matter. Turn signals don't matter. Nobody else matters. Get away from me. I'm going to cut off everybody in my SU honk. And they go like this. Will they flip off somebody in the boardroom? No. Will they cut off somebody in the boardroom? No. I'm not impressed with Hollywood. People ask me, do you know this person, that person? Maharani asked me to check out what was it, Sophia Loren? I pulled her up. There's a picture of her, one of those old black and whites, with her shirt well endowed, breasts, nipples showing right through the shirt. I'm going, dang, she was pretty. What is Hollywood promoting? I'm not saying to hate the movie makers. I'm not saying to hate the film critics, but I'm saying as a child of God, when are we men and women right here on this channel, myself included, going to say, we're done with this? Pastor went so far as to say, if you got a problem with porn, you need to get rid of your computer. Throw it away. I started thinking of that. If I threw my computer away, what would that mean for me? Can I tell you, I wrestle with that on a whole level. And before anybody says you're addicted to the internet, so are you. That's why you're here watching. Don't give me that. Everybody on this channel that's a fan of mine is addicted at some level or another of the internet. Because if you don't believe me, try to turn this off for a month and get back to me and see how it worked. What else is there to do? Read a book, play in the hose, you get a slip and slide. Okay, I'm 49 years old. I'm done with the slip and slide. I played in the water so much as a kid, I got that out of my system. I can't read for 8 hours a day. I start getting sleepy. I like interaction, and the reason I started making videos is not because I'm perfect, not because I'm a legend in my own mind. I'm not. I wish I was. I'd probably do better if I had a degree of arrogance to me and could be just as arrogant as these alpha queen loser females I work with. Then things wouldn't bother me as much. But because I'm real, because I'm flesh and blood, because I have feelings, because I can't play the game like everybody else, shoot, I can sit here and tell you the truth about God, but how to live it is hard. Hard! You want to know what I really believe? And this is the double standard of Pacific. I love looking at pictures of scantily clad women, but I don't think Christian women should be doing it at all, ever. Should not go to the beach with revealing clothing. We had a heavy woman after the service today get up and do sign language to some rock and roll Christian song, and she was, she was a little bit chunky, and I was like, and I found myself going, that's gross. I'm sorry. She had on this huge wide belt with a big buckle about that big across the midriff. I wasn't impressed. And then I thought, yep. And if some woman got up there who was hot looking, she would have been a stumbling block if she'd have been hot looking. But then it dawned on me, there's some men in here that she probably was a stumbling block. How far do we take the Bible about modesty? Does that mean women should not go to the beach with bikinis or a public pool? Should they lay out in suntan with bikinis where you can see almost all of their body except right here and that little triangle down here between their legs? That's what it's come down to. I'm not going to say you be the judge, but I think that everybody would agree with me that I'm touching on a nerve here. That if we really want to live up to God's standards, we as Christians, we can't tell the world what to do, but maybe you walking down to the beach where all the people are at is probably not a good plan. So does that mean I can't swim in the beach? I want you to tell me how many hot-looking women are caring and compassionate and sweet and nice and down to earth. Can you raise your hands, please? All those pictures I put on there, what are those women like personality-wise? There's a word that comes to my mind, but it's not an appropriate one for the internet. Fecal matters. Nicer way of saying it. Why does Pacific look at pictures? Why does Pacific like to masturbate over to images? Because I can't get those women, that's why. I had some of those kind of women in Asia, the pretty ones. But here in the U.S., I will never get a date with any of the kind of women I have posted on my Facebook. Will not happen. So, something's been communicated to me. Hot-looking women in Pacific don't equate. Number one, they're not going to be with me because of my looks. Number two, they're not going to be with me because of my belief system. Number three, they're not going to be with me because I don't make enough money or drive the right car, and a plethora of other things. And even if I could get a date with boobs, what am I going to get? Eye candy? Will that woman have my back? Will that woman be a woman committed to God? Will that woman be one who's willing to admit when she's wrong? Or is she a feminist, fiercely independent, etc., etc.? Remember the acronym BLAST: bored, lonely, angry, stressed, and tired. Men are amazing creatures. Woman can have a bad day and the last thing on her mind is sex. A man can have a bad day and the first thing he thinks about, I just want to get laid. Read a story about I think it was an Arterburns book, where man and his wife go out water skiing, and the husband crashed and burned so bad and was embarrassed in front of all his friends, and right after they got back, he says, I want to make love, and she's like, what, really? She goes, if that had happened to me, I would have been anything but in the mood for love. Women and men are radically different. I don't know why that is. I don't know why men are so sight-oriented and women are not. But women play on that. The other day, the woman of the house said I should have heard Andy Stanley's message on sex and this and that. And I said, you know what? I've heard a million messages on this. Oh, but his was different. His was better. His was different. When I came back today, I said, I got you beat. I just heard one from my pastor, and I heard things said that I haven't heard by many preachers that preach on this. And she wanted to say Stanley so much. I said, you know what? Stanley doesn't have the corner on this. There's other godly men saying what God has directed them to say too. She said, well, he was saying that women shouldn't be viewed as a commodity. And I turned around and said, the problem is, ma'am, is that women are viewed as a commodity because they've made it that way. When women say they want a man that's financially secure, that's told me that a woman's not after us, but as a commodity. I'm going to say something about American women that is dead on. Most American women are using men. They're not going after men because of love. They're going after men for financial security or who knows what. I read the date site posts. They're a joke. Women today are stumbling blocks to males in the workplace, in the church house, in the schoolhouse. My boss came before the break room and said this several weeks ago. I noticed the teachers at the public schools are dressing worse than we do in this room. Women sexually inappropriately dressed in front of students. I'm watching women come out at one of the high schools joking around, carrying on with the kids, almost as if those some of these 20-some-year-old teachers. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, that's getting borderline there. You're getting too chummy with these boys. Pastor today said that 77% more women are sexually active outside of marriage compared to 69% men. He said that ought to shock you. We always think it's the men. Women are doing it too. Don't think that, and when we talk about that women always are viewed as an object, men have been accused for that. Let me tell you something. In the multiple hours that I've seen pornography, I don't see anybody putting a gun to these fine-looking women's head telling them to do this. Feminism used to be against porn. Did you know that? They said it was demeaning to a woman. See, my Bible says our God changes not, but the feminist God has changed constantly. The today's feminist says, I can dress any way I want. Prostitution is a noble career. Being a porn star is a career. Really? Really? Why is it in our society that women are just the biggest hypocrites? It's okay to be lesbian, but they'll condemn homosexuals, two guys doing stuff. Because it goes back to the foundation of what I said, that women can't admit they're wrong. Whatever a woman condones and is participating in, she will sell it, she will promote it, and she will say that's gospel. I've watched it with Christian women. If they get turned on to Beth, oh, you got to hear Beth, oh, you got to read her book, you got to go. No, I don't got to go, and I don't got to read her book, and she's wrong. But whenever a man stands up and tries to promote truth, the women are strangely silent and disappear quickly. The men don't have a right to speak. I've heard women defend their right to buy so much clothing. When I was in Minnesota, I remember the neighbor lady came over to see our house. She said, wow, your wife's a clothes horse. She said that right in front of her. My wife said to this elderly lady, well, that's a woman thing. She goes, I don't do that. Women respond to today's men, well, you're a guy, you wouldn't understand. Oh, I understand. You're addicted. You're buying more clothes than you need. You're not content. You're not living as a wise steward of the resources God's given you. Back to the movies. Why are Christians constantly critiquing the movies, going to the movies expecting, it's like Einstein, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, and Christians do the same. You know, I was disappointed in that movie. There was cussing in it. They all got cussing in it. They all got GD and JC. Hello? And even this lame duck article says, you know, you shouldn't think there's agenda behind everything. There is an agenda behind everything. Hello? How come Christians can't just say, I don't need Hollywood? How come Pacific can't just say, I don't need the internet? Well, I do my online banking there. I communicate with the only friends I have there. What would it be like if I shut this thing down for a month? It'd be real boring in this house. I'd take naps, get up, read, eat, go to bed. The problem with humans is we need to be stimulated somehow. But the pastor's right. If something's causing us to sin, we need to stop it, right? It says, but God will, with the temptation, provide a way of escape. Can we be honest? We don't want to escape. Pastor admitted his story that when his wife was his fiance, he said, before we were Christians, I admit, we compromised, we did it. And then they both became Christians before they got married, while they were engaged. And he said, I realized if I'm really going to follow God and I really want to be an example to people and children and my wife, that I need to stop doing sexual immorality things. She says, I lived as a hedonist. So we're in the movie theater one night, and I wanted to hold her hand. There was an armrest. Her arm wasn't there. My hand fell right onto her thigh. He says, there was a shot of dopamine right to me, and my wife was hot. He says, you're alone, you're in the dark, you're with her. I'm going to tell you something, viewers. Is this going to shock you when I say that I'm addicted to an orgasm? People will laugh at that. Go ahead. Makes you feel better, but I think if most guys and women are honest, they are too. And the pastor said, why do we choose things of lesser value? Anytime you let something take you away from loving Jesus, that's evil. I will be honest. There are times when holiness seems like eating chalk dust. What would it look like if Pacific didn't hang out in places where there were scantily clad women? That if I just worked for male bosses in a place where there's men working there, not women, what would it look like? I'd still have a struggle the minute you go to the grocery store. Women are easily led by Satan today. Easily. There's times when I've felt righteous and I've minded my own business and I'm on a mission to go do something, and I'll go into a store and some pretty woman will just start talking to me and she's got cleavage and pants and everything that kill. I'm like, I'm a dead duck. I've told my viewers something and we all need to follow this, and I'm not very good at it. Stop feeding the pig. You put slop down, the pigs are going to come running to the trough, and we put slop down every time we look at porn or have a picture on our screensaver of a scantily clad woman. You're feeding the pig. In my job, I'm surrounded by teenagers that dress inappropriately, talk inappropriately, act inappropriately. Fortunately, I see that, and I just don't even think that way. Oh, I'd like to have a relationship with her. But these teen girls are showing stuff like you wouldn't believe. Dressed like sluts. We men get no mercy from this. Then you add to that layer women that are married, women that have boyfriends that come to work and they want to sit by me, they want to talk to me, they want to put their hand on my shoulder, hug. We don't have a very godly, pro-family environment anymore, do we, folks? This isn't Ozzie and Harriet. This is not Leave It to Beaver. This is not the Waltons. And now today, ethnicities are laughing at our TV shows. I've heard some ethnicities say, you remind me of Opie from Mayberry. Get with the times. Excuse me? Those were good times when there was an ain't bee to make you apple pie. I'm sorry, but people make fun of that, and that was TV, and it was hokey. I admit it. Barney Fife has become a symbol of inept police departments. But is anybody with me when I say, wouldn't it be nice to go to an ain't bee? How about Andy Taylor, Sheriff Taylor, being a dad? Wouldn't it be nice to go to something secure when cars didn't have this high acceleration and weren't tearing around and it was a quiet little orderly, clean-cut American town? I kind of like to go back to that myself. There's a lot more stability in that than there is today. Brady Bunch is a joke. You can't solve all the problems in 20 minutes. But it made for good, silly TV. Gilligan's Island. These shows aren't real. Crew stuck on an island, they're still wearing the same clothes and they haven't worn out and gotten filthy, dirty, and stained and threadbare. If you were to see the real Gilligan's Island, you'd be seeing Ginger and Marianne running around in palm frond leaves. And it is pushed in our face like nobody's business, the lust. It's in every single Hollywood movie. The woman that walks up to the man in the office leans her elbow like this is so. What are you doing after work today? Innuendo. Suggestive. Pushing the envelope. And every single one of us doesn't turn away. More Christians I know can tell you more details about the latest movie than they can of what's in here. Most Christian women I know more about actresses and actors and fluff and puff and the who's who of Hollywood than they do the names of the 66 books of the Bible. Yeah. You think I'm joking? Let's see what I know off the top of my head. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Ruth, Judges, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Esther, Nehemiah, Obadiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Amos, Jonah. I'm not going in order here. Psalms, Proverbs, Job, Ezra. Boy, let me see now. Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes, Habakkuk, Malachi, Zechariah, gotta think. There's another Z in there. Zephaniah. I think I said Joel. Hosea. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, and the General Electric Power Company, folks. Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Revelation, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, 1st, 2nd Peter, Hebrews, James, Jude. Don't bring me down. That's just off the top of my head, and I know I forgot a few. Do you know most Christian women can't do that at all? That have been in the faith longer than me. But they can tell you everything about the Hollywood who's who, Brad Pitt, who he was dating and married to and all that. Do you notice that the checkout aisles at any store in America cater to women's trivial fluff and puff, stuff that doesn't matter? Like I said to Maharani, our evening news with all the serious stuff going on in the world always tips their hat to Hollywood and who's doing what and who's doing who and their drug addiction, and they got pulled over, Zsa Gabor slapped by a cop or slapped a cop, and Justin Bieber got pulled over drinking, and what a bunch of morons. Who cares about them? Who cares if, Angelina Jolie had a baby? Who cares? There are all these godly women in America that have babies. They're going to homeschool them and raise them right. How come there's no mention of that? I played a song for Maharani last night, Dirty Laundry. She'd never heard it. Sheesh. I'll tell you how bad things are, and I'm not going to mention names. 2 people on my Facebook, 2 people that watch my channel. Both Christians. She's moved out of state to get away from him, and he continues to fight with her, harass her, text her, bother her, while living with the girlfriend he had the affair on that precipitated all of her selling her house, moving out of state, far away. And then suddenly, this guy befriends one of my dates and romances in Hong Kong, and I messaged her immediately and said, be very careful. We live in funky times. Do I like the guy? I haven't kicked him off because he's caused no trouble on my site. But the point is, yeah, Christians do horrible things. Christians sin. I know Christian addicted to Oxycontin. I know most Christian men struggle with masturbation, lust, and porn. I know most Christian men out there are having a big problem in the area of sexual purity. Right here, right here, right here. And I can't rationalize it. Part of it has happened because I know I can't get the good-looking women, so I can live vicariously hoping so. So what's the lesbian fetish? Seeing 2 hot women being intimate towards each other? Can I be honest? Sometimes that's more orgasmic than the thought of me doing it with one of those women. Because realistically, my mind is too realistic. My mind says, that girl's not going to date you. So you're fantasizing over nothing. She would never put her arms around you. She would never get naked with you. It would never happen. Do you see what sin has done? Do you see the varying levels and degrees and stages it takes? You throw in feminism, you throw in godless evolution, you throw in a lust and complete addiction by most Americans into Hollywood. And Hollywood has become the prevailing philosophy and theology of most Christians. It's become so entrenched that now we have born-again Christians calling themselves film critics, and they pay to see every single movie that comes out and rate it. Is that necessary? I'll give you my rating on Hollywood. Epic fail at all levels. Hollywood does not promote family values. Hollywood does not promote God or biblical truth. Hollywood promotes feminism, promotes liberalism, promotes people like Barack Obama, promotes anarchy, promotes rebellion, promotes sexual immorality, drug usage, violence. Then that same Hollywood turns around and screams and yells about gun control and the need for gun control, while almost every movie out there is about people shooting up people, and the ones that are shooting up the people and creating the bloodshed are the Hollywood stars. What part of hippo does Hollywood not understand? That's not potamus, by the way, that's crit. Why is it that Christians won't just turn off the boob tube, which, I'm sorry, the boob tube was slang term, but it is the boob tube. Shows like Friends blur the lines. There's nothing Christ-like or family about it. Well, I watch Animal Planet, I watch Discovery, I watch History. And has it enhanced your life and made you a better servant of the people? No. It's a kooky world. I've heard every ridiculous thing to stop lust. Steve Arterburn says, don't look at her, just turn away. Well, how are you supposed to do that when we got people in my workplace in office positions, scantily clad, in my face, that have to talk to me on a professional level? When we're supposed to turn and face the wall and said, I can't look at you, you're inappropriately dressed. I'd love to say that. It's not fair what's been done to us men. So should Pacific say I'm not going to go to the beach? There you go. See, now this thing's stuck, and it'll go. You can hear sound effects while I do my speaking here. I've often told myself that if I could get victory over the sexual struggle I have, I could be a mighty warrior for God. Can I be honest with my viewers? Sometimes I figure, well, I've been married 3 times. No one's going to want to marry me now. Not in this country. Not anybody I want to be with, that is. This is funny. See what I mean? This would be very entertaining for a little kid. Sound effects, garbled messages, crash sounds. My point is that I've talked to some of my viewers personally, and they admit to the same struggle. One of my viewers admitted that he struggles with bisexual feelings. I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. I am not interested in guys. That has left. One, because sometimes you have to get so far down the road to see how repulsive something is to finally wake up and go, okay, this is gross. I'm getting texted. This is a Christian woman who broke up with this guy over a year ago. He bashed me relentlessly in the usual fashion of lies, and then told me how I should move down here and kiss his ASS to get him back. I woke up to 18 more nasty bashing texts and more today. This woman loved him, housed him, let him stay with her basically unemployed. See, that thing just to keep on going. And she broke up. She sold her house. She moved away, took her kids, and moved on. He has called her. He has texted her. One day he'll say, I'm sorry. The next day he tells her basically what a piece of garbage. We live in a world where Christians aren't being convicted about their own actions. And how did some of this happen? Because we love the culture, because we love Hollywood. We become comfortable with our sin, comfortable with gossip, comfortable with bad, inappropriate movies, comfortable with profane language, comfortable with dirty jokes, comfortable with pornography, comfortable with everything. But I'm going to ask my viewers a question again. How do we get to a point where we can live so devoted to God that we stop all this? I'm going to tell you, if you do, you will not be popular. What if we men said, I refuse to stand there and talk to a scantily clad woman at all? What if we were in our workplace said, I'm sorry, due to my Christian conviction, your dress manner is very provocative to me and I cannot look at you. I don't want to talk to you. Would they fire us for that? Women are told to tell us when we do something offensive. Maybe we ought to do that to them when they come up to us. Now, I don't think we should go after them with that, but it might be an experiment. And the next time a young lady comes up and tries to tell me something, I'll say, you know what? The manner in which you're dressing is offensive to me and my religious convictions, and I can't look at you, so please, if you have something to say to me, please say it through somebody else who's dressed appropriately. Do we not go to the beach because women are dressed in bikinis? I'm going to say something. If I understand Scripture correctly, yeah. Yeah. If we really want to get mastery over it, yeah. What about Gypsy condemning me for a year with all her stupid little emails, telling me that I'm immoral and that people should have no fellowship with me? Well, then why do you keep going around with me for a whole year? That's interesting. So she herself doesn't believe the Scripture. And I struggle with this because there are women out there that say they want a godly man. But women need to ask themselves, are you godly? Are you contributing to the problem? I'm going to be so bold as to say that, yes, a lot of men have looked at women as an object to be used, but a lot of women have made it very easy for us to do that. I don't mean to be rude, women, but I'm not going to say take a look at porn. I'm using that figurative. Take a look at the porn industry. It's all hot-looking women in it. What do they think we're going to do with that? Just say, wow, she's beautiful? Women that are in porn know that men use it for masturbation. And guess what? I know women that use it for masturbation too. It is epidemic in America that women are turning to lesbian porn. Good-looking, straight women are turning to lesbian porn and liking it. Why is this happening? Because we don't know how to be relational anymore. We have a relationship with an iPhone, iPad, tablet. What would it be like if all my viewers were in a church building and we all lived in the same town and you guys hired me to be the preacher? Well, that would be a big start, because then I'd have accountability. Then I could have all of you guys put a filter on my internet right in the office that I work from, that you guys could hold me accountable. You see, we got a lot of problems today. We don't hold each other accountable. We're supposed to do it all by ourselves. We can't do it all by ourselves. I also learned a long time ago, I have been sensitive in my life, and I've been through a lot of stuff, and I found that a good orgasm is a nice pacifier. I admit, masturbating before bed makes me fall right to sleep. Masturbating when you're down is a nice release. When you're alone, nice release. When you're stressed, nice release. There's been a few times in my life where something distraught me so much I couldn't even think about lust. Unfortunately, those are rare. The pastor said, and he couches it this way, that are we really making Jesus our first love and our first priority? Whenever we allow something of lesser value to take us away from the love of God and being obedient to Him, it's evil. The problem I have with that is I agree. But how do you break long entrenched habits? Well, no woman would marry you. What, would you be masturbating to porn if you were with her? Well, for the 14 years I was married, I didn't. For most of it, until the later end. But when you're in a bad marriage, that can fuel fires too. For men and women. Christian women are committing sexual immorality right up there with men. And some of those women are still saying they want a godly man, and yet they're not finding him. You have a whole bunch of men out there. They're supposed to take this sex drive. The Bible said it is not good for man to be alone. I want to ask my viewers a question. Is it the will of God for man to be alone for 30, 40 years of his life with a full-blown sex drive in him and he's not supposed to have any release? Boy, I don't know the answer to that. Sex outside of marriage is wrong. Looking at pornography is wrong. And women are quick to say, well, man should use self-control. So should women with the way they run their mouths and the way they spend, and the way they live so utterly immature and flaky, but self-control doesn't seem to apply to them. They're good at throwing the purity trip on us when they dress like whores. Flashback to the break room last week when the useless staff physician of a scantily clad 20-something-year-old ding-dong is showing her 2 inches of boob pressed up in her chin, and she's telling me coolly women can dress any way they want. Excuse me, I wasn't talking to you, slut. I was talking to him, and you're not part of this conversation. That's what I wanted to say. I think men are frustrated nationally. Women have competed for our jobs. I have seen more garbage go on when I've worked with a place where there's a lot of women in power. It is a frustrating work environment. At least when I worked for male bosses, I knew what was expected of me, and I was able to stay out a lot of that crap. And part of me starting to believe I really want to get a job now where I'm not under the authority of women, because it's not right. What would it look like if we truly choose to submit to God and say, God, I want a job where I'm not under the authority of a woman? I would like a job where I'm in a workplace where there are no women. At least in your workplace, that would help. We men don't know our place anymore because we've been molded and branded by a feminist society which has brainwashed us, which has subtly woven its toxic poison in, that we've even picked up on it. Men are afraid to speak out against today's women for fear of lawsuits, harassment, fired. But notice, women aren't afraid. Not at all. I think I made a point. Lust is something that most of us men deal with. And it doesn't just go away just because we throw a circuit breaker. That's why we need each other. Not Holy Spirit police in our lives. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? But people who care, people who pray, people who lift each other up, people who can hold each other accountable in an appropriate manner. I don't know if this helps my viewers to even put forth a video like this, but I'll let you let me know. There are times when I read scripture verses that says, if your right eye causes you sin, gouge it out. Does that literally mean rip your eyeball out of your head? Well, if you rip both your eyes out, guess what? You're still going to have a problem with lust. Did you know that? So then you need to say Jesus was using a symbolism for something. How far do we go? Do you really quit that job if some woman's coming on to you and she's causing you to stumble? What do you do when you walk through the grocery store and it's right in front of your face? What do you do when everywhere you go it's in front of your face? Okay, I'm not going to go to that church anymore. I'm not going to. I mean, you might as well hole up and be a monk. It's not easy. He had some good things to say, but then as time goes by, I start to go, but how far do we take this? When does it become not legalism, but being just a little too ridiculous? I will allow my viewers to leave their comments on that. Do you think Christian men and Christian women that women should wear bikinis out in public, showing as much flesh as they do? Let me know on that. Do you believe men should quit their job if women are coming on to them at that job? Especially in an economy like this today, especially if they're 3 years from retirement. What do you do? I want people to get back to me in this process of gouging out your eye. Do you really throw your computer in the trash? If I did that, that means no more YouTube channel, no more Facebook, no more Skype, no more anything connected to the internet. If I did my online banking, I'd have to go to a public library and do it once a month. As my uncle rightly stated, that when you try to get rid of something, you'd better have something to replace it or you'll go right back to it. I used to love chat rooms because it was an addicting factor. I loved the debate, the argument, the camaraderie. But when they closed down, I found something else to do. I majored on my channel more. Why did I give you this video about my yucky sins and past? To let you know you're not alone. To be a touchstone to others that have felt guilt or whatever. Confess your sins to God and allow Him to cleanse you and be real with Him. I want my viewers to contribute on this, men and women. Doesn't mean I'll agree with you, but I want to hear your viewpoints on this, Christian women. You think women should wear bikinis in public? Do you think that, what are we supposed to do? How about you Christian women? Would you marry a man who has a struggle with lust? Or would you say, nope, nope, nope? Maharani knows my struggle. She said, if I could, I'd still marry you. I said, even with all this? She goes, even with all this. That's a rare woman. I don't know too many white women in America that marry Christian white women. Oh, no, I'm not marrying a man who has a struggle with lust. And there are people that could defend them to the teeth on that. But most Christian white women I've met in the U.S., they may not have a struggle with lust, but boy, they sure got an attitude problem and problems everywhere else, and they don't seem to see that. Why is that? I'm going to share something in closing, and it might take a while to talk about this, but I'm heading to the finish line here. There was a missionary couple that got up and spoke about their work in Alaska. Something to do with missionary aviation repair. I couldn't believe how much missionary airplanes are doing work hauling cargo and people and supplies to outposts up in the Unicalat or whatever. I can't even say some of those Alaskan names, but it was pretty awesome. And the whole time the wife, she looks dowdy, she looks boring, not saying anything, not smiling, just slender, boring woman. And can I be honest? Through my collective 49 years of experience, I still like women, but I gotta be honest, I do find a lot of women an actual waste of my time. I look at a lot of these boring wives that just look like duds. Does anybody know what a dud is? When I was a kid in LA, we used to buy a box of fireworks. Every so often there'd be a dud in there. You light it, and the fuse goes, and nothing happens. And you're waiting, and you'd be told, don't touch it, because it might be burning underneath there and still blow. There were fireworks that didn't blow off, that didn't go off. There's a lot of women like that in our culture. They're dead. They're passionless. How does a man love that? How does a man fall in love with that? What do you do when women are getting hugely obese and gross and disgusting and saying we need to accept them and love them anyway? Is that really what my Bible says? Only on a spiritual level. Not the acceptance, but the love of God, yes. What do we do with the plethora of hot-looking women that have snubbed, been arrogant, put down, and castigated us average males? What do you do with that? And yet, some of them are involved in the porn industry. I noticed when I talked to the woman of the house, she started saying that men view women as a commodity. I said, you know what? Women dress and cause us to stumble. Well, men need to have some. I said, yeah, it's always the men that have to change, never the women. And I did. I said, I'm not going to have this discussion because there's so many layers into this. And I said, I've talked about this on my YouTube channel, and I don't agree with your point of view. Men are blamed and condemned and guilted at every church I've gone to, except this one today. Women are just as much a part of the problem of affairs, adultery, porn, masturbation as all the men are. In fact, many women, by their rude, arrogant, childish, self-centered, narcissistic behavior, have pushed many of us men into a corner of a private hell called lust, porn, and masturbation because we said, why would I want to get married? Did you know that just in the last few months, I've actually started to become more comfortable saying, no, forget marriage. That's out. It's out. I think I have seen enough with my ex-wife. I've seen enough on the roads. I've seen enough with the women in this culture. The only snowball's chance I'd have is to marry a foreign woman. And that's not going to happen. Unless she's fresh off the boat and comes to me. But I'm not going over to get somebody. I don't have the financial means to get residency, to stay and live in a foreign country. Pacific has more and more started to find myself drifting into, wow, women are using men, women are using, and the porn industry, women do it to themselves. We know we can't have them. So we can lust and fantasize over at least the thought, and them showing them their bodies. Women themselves are letting themselves be treated as a commodity and be used. That cannot be laid at the feet of males. Not all of it. Not even half of it. Not even 25% of it. Why is it whenever a marriage fails or something happens between a man and a woman, it's always the woman that runs off being the victim and the man's the bad guy every single time? Why is that? Because our churches and our society has never taught women the truth. Our society has coddled women, said, you're ladies, you get special privileges that men don't get. How many professional women would think I was GQ and want to hire me for a front desk position and pay me big money? How many? How many times have you gone into a business where a woman has no professional experience whatsoever, but because she had a nice set of tatas, got hired for the front desk, and the boss gives her all the favors, perks, vacations? Do you know how much employment is generated just off of lust, men's lust? And they'll be held accountable for that, showing favoritism, sexism. And for you men looking for jobs, don't go seeking employment from a female boss because they'll shred you. Go to the lumber yard or the hardware store and find the male boss and say, man, I really need a job. Is there anything you can do for me? I'm becoming more convinced that if we really were to live out Scripture, we'd be so radically peculiar in this world, we would get all the hate generated thrown at us. And since one of my classic trolls will be here anyway, I want to do a parting shot to Hurricane Pandora, raging on and on. And I'm going to attack you directly to your face through this video. You have said so much stuff. I didn't watch your stupid little video that you made about friends corrupting your children. I didn't watch it. Your videos have extremely low views. The only ones that have high views are the ones where you made reference to me. So the only reason they have high views is because of my name in it. By the way, I consider that an honor. Thank you for that. The rest of your stuff, nobody cares, except a very minuscule handful of people. One video had 24 views. Ooh. But let me say something that Maharani told me this morning, that in the Google Plus you had left a comment saying you're way better looking than Maharani. No. 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 No and no. You're overweight. Your heart is ugly. Your persona and affect is not pretty. Maharani's pretty. She's still a lady. And that you would even compare yourself to her is beyond my ability to comprehend. Pandora, I've tried to reach out to you. Shake hands across the aisle. And you even had a video saying Pacific Ocean Asia apologizes. No, you had that wrong. I didn't apologize. Not at all. I have nothing to apologize for. I think I said I'm sorry for some of the things I said because it was getting carried away. Because there are times when I, as a Christian, say things I shouldn't say, but I got to be honest with you. Have you listened to your own mouth? Do you ever sit back and listen to your own videos? I actually play my videos back just to see. And there's times I've caught myself and said, nope, I'm not posting that. Delete. There's other times like, no, this is good. You're an angry, hateful, hostile woman. I don't know what your problem is. But all you're doing is giving confirmation to my fans and me that you're a troubled, satanic, hell-bound woman. I don't know how more direct I can get. Seriously, Pandora, give it a rest. Go on with your channel, go on with your little gig, and get out of here. You don't believe in the Bible? Well, this is the wrong place for you, sweetie. You don't believe in my conservative views? You want to make fun because I'm so open? Why don't you talk about your sins, girl? Let's hear them. And all the meds you're on and all the crazy wacko behavior. Where's your mom and dad? What's your family upbringing like? What are your brothers and sisters? Let's hear about your life story. At least mine's out there. What do you got? Anger, hate, rage, and an ego that doesn't quit? You can't even talk right? You don't have vocabulary. You don't have eloquence. You're not a master at public speaking. Can I be very honest? Stick to your day job and hang it up. How dare you compare yourself to Maharani? Or any of my female viewers. They're all prettier than you are. All. Sorry to be so blunt, but you are bringing on way too much. You're overstepping your bounds in so many ways, and you want me to address you, and you're squealing for attention like a stuck piggy. Well, let me help you get out from between the pickets and the fence so you can squeal right on out of here. You got issues, lady. Does it make you feel better to condemn my life? They're falling on deaf ears. I blocked you. Just I see some of the comments my viewers are writing and addressing you, and I'm like, wow, Hurricane Pandora, the electrocuted, is still going on and on. When are you going to run out of steam, man? You haven't even bothered to tell me what peeved you off so much. You watched my channel, got so offended at me talking about homosexuality. I admitted that I participated in that, but I also said it's a sin, and you're coming unglued at the seams about that. Sorry, but we don't agree with you, babes. We don't. You're not God. You're not the standard. You're not the Ten Commandments. You're not Pacific. You're not Maharani, and you're not the bulk of my viewers. Your channel, it's interesting. You watch mine. That's a feather in my cap. But I'm not watching yours because I don't want to. You have nothing to say. You can't reach me. You intellectually cannot reach me. Take that to heart, sweet lips. I know I'm not going to change you, but maybe what you need is for me to just finally come out at the end of my video and say, you know what? There's nothing that you're going to say in your videos that's going to get to me because I don't watch your channel. Your channel's a waste of time. And I'm not just saying that from my perspective. It's a waste of time. You're not dealing with truth. You're not dealing with anything life-changing or eternal or transforming. Unstinking believable. You want attention? I'll give it to you. If you became a Christian, that would be awesome. Even if you didn't, if you came to your senses and became a nicer, kinder woman with a heart of warmth, maybe we could endure you. But I'm sorry. Watching your channel is like standing in a yard full of skunks, all with their tails in the air spraying. I don't want to stand around and smell that. I'm out of here. Or better yet, a porcupine. You reach over to touch. Can I objectively tell you something, Pandora? Take a look at yourself. You're looking really poorly. I'm sure you'll make a video commenting on this one. You go, girl. I won't watch. You're a troll. You're a predictable troll. But the reason I said the harsh things I just said is you're commenting on Maharani. Unbelievable. Her hair is pretty. Her face is pretty. She's slender. And you're attacking her, and she's never done anything to you. You're like a chicken male. A male who can't fight, who doesn't have the physical prowess to take me on, but would turn around and say, oh, your kid's ugly. Your girlfriend's ugly. Those are called cheap shots. And you're the master of cheap, aren't you? Do you live in a trailer park? Or do you live in that rectangular brown bin with the black plastic lids that flip back right behind KFC? You tell me. Because the way you come off, you're a classic ghetto queen. And I'm accepting of people at all income levels, all ethnicities, but you take things to such new lows. What is the purpose of your channel? What is it? Where are you going? I have blown the doors off you a long, long time before your channel even came into existence. And you're like a little field mouse coming up behind a polar bear going squeak, squeak, squeak. And I'm going to turn around and go with my big white foot. Polar bears have white fur, by the way. That was not a racial statement, which I'm sure you'll twist that up. You know, arguing with my viewers. You're amazing. You can't get rid of my channel. You can't stop watching it. Do you know what that tells me? You can't. You're addicted to my channel. I think that's a compliment. But if I'm such a loser and a goofball and this and that, why are you here? I'll do this to you the same thing I did to Liquid. Why are you here? I'm not on your channel. I don't want to see it. You're not sexy at all. But you don't have anything to say. Man, reach me, girl. Reach me, please, because I desperately need somebody smarter than myself to reach me, and you're not doing it. Some of my own viewers can reach me, but you haven't and can't and won't. You're incapable of it. Hurricane Pandora blew ashore. The Pacific Ocean superliner doesn't even feel the swell of the rising tide that you're trying to create. Booyah. This is Pacific Ocean, Asia, formerly known. Now the sexy Asian dragon talking about sexual issues and other controversial subjects. Arriving not at perfection, but walking this walk, admitting his struggles, admitting his viewpoints and the conflict in his own mind. I thank my faithful viewers that can handle my honest brutality. You're what keeps me going. Stay tuned to the sexy. There will be more upcoming. This is Pacific signing off. Bye-bye.